Hello everybody, welcome back. In this video I'm going to be introducing to you a really powerful feature of Django. That's the Django ORM, and ORM in this case stands for Object Relational Manager. So basically what the Object Relational Manager does is that it makes it really easy for us as developers to interact with our SQL database and run operations on it as well as perform queries. So to further explain this concept, I'm going to use an image which is going to help aid your understanding. So the Django ORM works in a two-step process, and you start off by actually defining a class which we call a model in Django terminology, and this model corresponds to a specific entity that you might want to save in the database. The name for the class corresponds to the name of the table that's going to be used in the database, and then all of the different attributes that the class has are then the fields or the rows of the actual table. For example, I might have some data that I've scraped off of a page on the internet, and I might want to save the title for that page, the permalink, the upload date, and some text or the body of that page. And to do that, I can create a class which is going to be named page. So I'm going to create a table essentially in the SQL database, which is going to be called page. And then for all of the rows inside of that table, I'm going to have the title, the permalink, upload date, and body text. And then what essentially the Django ORM is going to do is that we run a very specific Django command, which is called make migrations. It'll take all of the classes that it finds, which corresponds to our model classes. And then it'll generate some automated SQL. And then after we've generated that automated SQL, the final step that we need to do is that we then call the manage.py migrate command, which then takes the SQL that was generated and then applies that to the database. This is a really powerful feature of Django that makes it really easy for developers to quickly get started with the SQL database, and makes it really easy for like beginners that are just new to SQL development in general, easy to get going. Okay, so now that we have a good understanding of what the Django ORM is, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to show you an error that we're getting right now when we try to access the Django admin panel, and then how we can resolve that. So for now, if I run my server, you're going to see, and hopefully you should see this as well if you run your server, that it's going to give you an error saying that you have 18 unapplied migrations. Well, what this means is that Django says that, oh, I've seen some apps that have some model classes that are defined inside of them, but I can't seem to find any migrations as of now. So I think there's something wrong, and I think the database is not quite set up right now. So to fix this, what we have to do is that we can first exit the API, and then we can do /manage.py. And before we actually make the migrations, what I'll like to do is that just show you another error that you might get when you're developing a Django app or even Django REST app. And that is, if I try to go to the admin panel, you're going to see that I get an error that says no such table Django sessions. Sometimes if you see an error that kind of points towards something that's wrong with the database, always make sure that the first thing is that you have created the migrations, if you've uploaded any models, and then those migrations have been applied to the database as well. So in this case, I know that I have the migrations, but I haven't applied them. And you might be like, well, I haven't defined any models yet, so why is this giving me an error? Well, Django out of the box does provide you with some out of the box models, such as Django sessions, as well as a user model, and that's why it's giving you an error. So if I do /manage.py make migrations, which is a command, as I've mentioned, which takes in all of the models that you've defined, and then it creates the SQL commands for them, you're going to see that I get no changes detected. Django out of the box already has all of the SQL stuff generated, so we don't have to worry about make migrations. But whenever you make a change to a model, you'll have to do the make migrations command first, followed by the migrate command. So now I'll do manage.py migrate, and you're going to see that we'll get a bunch of output. And this essentially just means that all of the different migrations that were created, they are being applied to the database. So once we have done this, our database should now be in a state where it's ready to handle all of the data that we send to it. So if I do run server now, and I reload the app to our admin panel, you're going to see that we are now able to see that no panel load up, but we cannot still access it. And the reason for that is that there is no user in our app right now, so we have to create a user. Well, luckily the manage.py file gives us a really handy dandy function called create super user. And what create super user does is that it allows us to create a super user for our Django application without the need for us to actually write some Python code or maybe create a GUI that allows us to do that. So now what I'm going to do is that for the username, I'll just leave it at blank, and it's going to use my username Hussein. For the email address, I'll do hussein@preneur.com. For the password, I'll just do test123 and then test123. And with this, we should be good, and you should get a command that says the super user has been created successfully. So now if I do /manage.py run server, you're going to see that our server starts up. And now I can reload the app, and then I can input the username that I just used to create my super user. I can input the password. And if I log in, you're going to see that we're inside of the Django admin panel now. So with that, I think we have a fairly good understanding of a really powerful feature that Django provides us, the Django ORM. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.